Hi, I'm Jennifer Johnson, and welcome to our Excel Tip of the Week. Today, I'm going to talk about how to format your Excel worksheet to print. In our Excel workbook that we have here, I've got a worksheet that is several rows, thousands of rows long. That's going to create a printing opportunity that's many pages. But I know what you're thinking. People don't actually print data anymore, do they? Well, sometimes they might. So how can I make this workbook or this worksheet printer friendly just in case somebody wants to print it out? Well, let's take a look at a couple of things. First off, let's take a look at the views that we are in. If you go to the View tab on your ribbon, you can change the view from Normal, which is what we are in now, to the Page Break Preview. The Page Break Preview shows you where all of the breaks are going to occur in your data. If you notice, we have solid lines all the way around our worksheet, all of our data, and then we've got a dashed line in the middle. This dashed line can be manually adjusted. If I drag it left or right, it will change to a solid line. And with that solid line being changed, that means that I have manually adjusted the place where the page break is going to occur. I can change my vertical as well as my horizontal page breaks. So that might be helpful if you want to manually adjust how wide a worksheet is or where the breaks are occurring naturally among your data. Those views that I just showed you can also be accessed on the bottom right-hand side of your ribbon. The first one is your normal view, the second one is your page layout view, and the third one is your page break view. Let's hop over to the page layout view now. On the page layout view, this is where we can see if we have any headers or footers available to us on our worksheets. If we wanted to add in footers, we could click on the footer area and add in a footer. My menu bar on my ribbon has changed. My options have changed. Notice a header and footer tab has now appeared. Within that header and footer tab, I can add page numbers, I can add file names and paths. I also can identify if my first page is going to be different than all of my other pages. Let's say I wanted to insert a page number. And I don't just want it to say the number alone, I want it to say the word, actually the word page. I'm going to put a little hyphen in there. And then I'm going to click on the page number on my headers and footers ribbon tab, and then put another hyphen. What that does is it now places this footer on every single one of my pages. If I wanted to edit that, I could click again into the footer area, choose the header and footer tab on my ribbon, and make some modifications. I have footers available to me in three sections: a left-hand, a right-hand section, and a middle section. Now that I've got headers or footers included, that makes my document a little bit more user-friendly. But there's something else that might make my document a little bit more user-friendly, especially if my document goes across multiple pages. Let's go back to our page break view on the View tab. Now what you can see here is I actually have a column header on every one of my columns. I want that to repeat on every single page. That's going to make it more user-friendly for somebody who prints out a document that goes across multiple pages. Well, let's take a look at how to fix that. I'm going to select Page Layout from my ribbon. On the page layout area, I've got lots of things that can help me with my page layout. Let's review some of these options. One of the simple options right away is the grid lines. We're all familiar with the grid lines that we see within Excel. Those are the ways that the boxes are created or the cells are created. Right now, my grid lines are just viewable. I could choose to print my grid lines if I wanted to. Now, what does that look like and what does that mean? I'm going to go up to my ribbon here, and at the very top on my Quick Access toolbar, I have a Print Preview option identified. If I choose Print Preview, what that means is all of the grid lines will now be available on every one of my pages. I'm not sure that I really want that, but I could. That might be helpful. Another option on your page layout is the print headings. So headings mean the letters A, B, C, and D for your column and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for your row. So I have my grid lines selected to print and my headings selected to print. Let's take a sneak peek now at our print preview. You can see that A, B, C, and D and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are included in the printout here. Again, maybe something you want, maybe something you don't. Let's go back now. I'm going to remove the headings and I'm going to remove the grid lines. The thing I really wanted to do though was include row 1 on each and every one of my pages that I'm going to print. That's considered printing titles. I'm going to choose Print Titles from my page layout, and this brings up the Page Setup Wizard. On the Sheet tab of the wizard, there's a section called Print Titles, and it wants to know what row to repeat or what column to repeat. Well, technically, I want to repeat row 1 over and over again. So I'm selecting row 1, and now row 1 will appear every single time I print this page. Conversely, if I had something in column A that I wanted to stay consistent with every single printout, I could choose to include my columns. While we're still on this worksheet, let's explore this a little bit more. Another interesting place to look at is the page order. Since I have multiple pages that are going to be printed, you can edit the page order. Instead of going down all the way and then over, I can choose to print over and then down. Another thing that might be interesting is to lay out the overall page setup. On the Page tab here in the Page Setup Wizard, I can choose to adjust my margins or my size manually. I can adjust my scaling manually. I can adjust it to a certain percentage of normal size. However, something that might be a little bit easier to do is to choose the Fit To option. I can choose to fit it to X number of pages wide by X number of pages tall. Now, I clearly don't want to fit this to 1 page wide by 1 page tall. If I did that, let's take a look at the print preview. Oh my goodness, because it is such a long document, it made it super tiny. What I really want to do, I'm going to go back to that page layout. I accessed it from the page layout area, and you can expand the page setup from the little arrow. Now, I don't necessarily want it to just be 1 page wide by 1 page tall, but maybe I do want it to be 1 page wide, and then I'll let Excel naturally break the number of pages tall. So I've modified the Fit To for 1 page wide and blank pages tall. Let's see what the print preview looks like now. Okay, that looks a little bit more reasonable in terms of what is on each and every page. Now the question is though, why on my first page is it so short? Why is my print preview only listing a few items? Well, let's investigate that. Remember a few minutes ago, I did a manual page break and I included a fixed break from page 1 to page 2. If we no longer want that page break to appear, we can remove that page break. If I want this page break to go away, there's a couple of ways to fix it. I can manually drag it all the way off my screen, or I can right-click on the page break and I can choose Reset All Page Breaks. That will remove all of the manually set page breaks. Now, that doesn't change my scaling at all. Let's go back to the Scale to Fit section here on the page layout. And if I revisit that, I still am set to 1 page wide by 1 page tall. Let's preview that one more time. Okay, now you can see that on every single page, I have got a full set of data. Let's look at one more thing then. Because the data is so wide and it might be so small, I could also alter the orientation and use a landscape orientation. Now let's preview that one more time. And now my data has all of the columns on one page. My headers are repeating on every single page. I've added in a page number at the bottom. And you can see that my data is very easy to read now. So play around a little bit with all of your different options, from inputting footers and headers to managing the scale of your pages, as well as including columns and rows to repeat on every page. By setting your document to be printer friendly, you make it that much easier for people to use your information. Thanks for joining me on this week's tip.